Captain Maya Phoenix Reeves stood in the scorching Nevada sun, her duffel bag at her feet and her flight suit still bearing the creases from 14 hours in an F-22 cockpit. She'd just landed from a classified mission over the Pacific, her third consecutive sortie in as many days, and she was bone-tired. The kind of tired that made your hands shake when you tried to sign paperwork. Admiral Harold Bridgewater emerged from the operations building, his face the color of a ripe tomato, his stride purposeful and aggressive. Maya had never met the man, but she recognized the type immediately: old school, brass-heavy, and about as flexible as a steel I-beam. Captain Reeves. His voice cracked across the tarmac like a whip. "What in the hell do you think you're doing parking that aircraft in my designated admin area?" Maya blinked, her exhaustion making everything feel slightly surreal. She glanced behind her at the F-22 Raptor, still cooling from the flight, parked exactly where ground control had directed her. "Sir, I was following tower instructions." "I don't care what tower told you. This is my base, and when I say that area is off-limits to transient aircraft, I mean it." He jabbed a finger toward the other end of the field. "You want to park your overgrown toy, you do it in the transient area like everyone else." Maya felt the familiar burn of injustice in her chest, but she kept her voice level. "Sir, with respect, I'm not transient. I'm here for the joint operations briefing at 0600 tomorrow. My orders." "Your orders don't supersede my authority, Captain." Bridgewater stepped closer, his jaw set. "And another thing, I've had it up to here with you hotshot fighter jocks thinking you own every base you land on. You're dismissed from this facility. Find somewhere else to spend the night." Behind them, a small crowd had gathered: maintenance crews, a handful of junior officers, and 3 men in Navy fatigues who'd been heading toward the gym. Maya felt the heat of humiliation creeping up her neck, but she held her ground. "Admiral, I have mission-critical briefings." "Not my problem." "Security." Bridgewater gestured to the MPs standing by the gate. "Escort Captain Reeves off this installation. She's no longer welcome." Maya's hands curled into fists at her sides, but she forced them to relax. "You didn't make captain in the Air Force by losing your cool, no matter how much you wanted to tell a flag officer exactly where he could shove his authority." She picked up her duffel, nodded curtly to the Admiral, and started walking toward the gate. The MPs fell into step beside her, looking uncomfortable. One of them, a young corporal, kept glancing at her sideways, his expression uncertain. They were halfway to the exit when one of the men in Navy fatigues jogged up behind them. "Wait," he called out. "Hold on a second." Maya turned. The man was built like a tank, with close-cropped hair and the weathered face of someone who spent more time in hostile territory than on base. His eyes were sharp, assessing. "What's your call sign, Captain?" he asked, his voice quiet but carrying an edge of something she couldn't quite place. Maya hesitated. Call signs were personal, earned through blood and fire, and the kind of missions that never made it into official reports. But something in the man's expression made her answer. "Phoenix." The effect was instantaneous. The seal, and she could see now that's exactly what he was, from the trident pin on his chest to the way he carried himself, went perfectly still. His eyes widened, then his expression shifted through surprise, recognition, and something that looked like awe. He snapped to attention and rendered the sharpest salute Maya had ever received. "Master Chief Brad Coleman, SEAL Team 3, he said. "Ma'am, we were told Phoenix was a ghost story. Urban legend." Behind him, the other 2 SEALs had stopped dead in their tracks. Within seconds they too were at attention, saluting. Maya returned the salute, confused. "At ease." "I'm just a pilot, Master Chief." "Just a pilot," Coleman repeated, his voice carrying across the tarmac. "Admiral, do you have any idea who you just kicked off this base?" Bridgewater had turned at the commotion, his face still flushed with anger. "I don't care if she's..." "Kandahar Province, March 2023, Coleman cut him off, which should have been career suicide, but he didn't seem to care. "Operation Silent Thunder. My team was pinned down by enemy fire in a valley with no cover. We had 17 wounded and no way out. Command said extract was impossible. The mountains blocked communications, weather was closing in, and we had enemy armor rolling toward our position." Maya felt her throat tighten. She remembered that night. Remembered the fear in the voices over the radio, the way the clouds had pressed down like a coffin lid. Coleman continued, his voice rough with emotion. "We heard it before we saw it, this sound like thunder rolling down the mountain. Then out of nowhere, this F-22 comes screaming through the valley at what must have been 50 feet off the deck, flying between mountain peaks in zero visibility. One pass and every piece of enemy armor was slag. Second pass and the enemy positions just ceased to exist. The crowd around them had grown larger. More personnel were emerging from buildings, drawn by Coleman's raised voice. The pilot, Phoenix, stayed on station for 3 hours, flying a combat air patrol in conditions that should have been impossible, until extract could reach us. Coleman's eyes were locked on Maya. That pilot saved 23 lives that night. My life. And then disappeared from the official record completely. That mission's classified, Maya said quietly. A lot of your missions are classified, aren't they, Captain? Another SEAL stepped forward, this one with gray at his temples. Senior Chief Mike Torres. Syria, 2022. You pulled 6 friendlies out of a hot LZ when nobody else would fly. Yemen, 2021, the third SEAL added. You dropped ordnance danger close to save a Marine platoon. They said you put a JDAM within 20 meters of friendly forces. In a sandstorm. Admiral Bridgewater's face had gone from red to pale. He was staring at Maya like she was a stranger, which in a way she supposed she was. I don't understand, he said, his bluster gone. Why isn't any of this in your record? Because, came a new voice, most of what Captain Reeves does doesn't officially exist. A woman in a crisp Air Force uniform with stars on her shoulders emerged from a black SUV that had just pulled up. Major General Sarah Chin, Commander of Air Combat Command. Maya's ultimate boss. Admiral Bridgewater, Chin said, her voice cold enough to freeze nitrogen. Captain Reeves is one of 3 pilots in the entire Air Force cleared for Tier 1 Special Operations support. She flies missions that never appear in any log, in support of operations you'll never read about. She's been shot at more times than most combat veterans and has saved more lives than an entire hospital ward. Chin turned to Maya, her expression softening. I got a call from SOCOM 20 minutes ago. Seems some of their people happened to be on this base and recognized you. They're not happy about how you've been treated. More SEALs had appeared now, and Green Berets, and others whose uniforms bore no unit insignia at all. They formed a corridor between Maya and the base entrance, and as she looked at them, every single one snapped to attention. It wasn't just respect. It was recognition. These were the people she flew for, the ones who fought in the dark places and came home to silence and secrecy. They knew what it cost. Captain Reeves, General Chin said formally, you have my sincerest apologies. You're not only welcome on this base, you're to be accorded every courtesy and respect your rank and service deserve. She turned to Bridgewater, and her voice dropped to a temperature approaching absolute zero. Admiral, my office will be in touch with Navarre about appropriate recognition protocols for Special Operations Aviation assets. I believe you have some learning to do. Bridgewater looked like he wanted to sink through the tarmac. To his credit, he stepped forward and met Maya's eyes. Captain Reeves, he said, his voice thick, I owe you an apology. I was out of line and I judged without knowing. That's inexcusable from an officer of my rank and experience. Maya studied him for a long moment, seeing not just arrogance now but genuine remorse. She'd been in the military long enough to know that admitting you were wrong in front of subordinates took a special kind of courage. Apology accepted, sir, she said. We all have bad days. Master Chief Coleman grinned. Ma'am, can I buy you a beer? I've been wanting to meet Phoenix for 3 years. Maya felt the exhaustion lift slightly, replaced by something warmer. Community. Brotherhood. The knowledge that somewhere out there people knew what she'd done and valued it. Make it a coffee, she said, smiling for the first time since landing. I've got a brief at 0600 and I need to be sharp. As she walked back toward the operations building, surrounded by warriors who understood the weight of silent sacrifice, Maya thought about the call sign she'd earned. Phoenix, the bird that rose from ashes. She'd burned and been reborn more times than she could count, in cockpits and crisis moments, in the spaces between heroism and duty. And she'd do it all again tomorrow and the day after that, for as long as they needed her in the sky. Because that's what a Phoenix did.